but
So
you can go
yeah,
ahead.
perfect. Okay, so in the next thing, it's about in the agenda, it's if there is any announcement to share with the group. I don't have any this week, but if anybody else is willing to share, please go ahead.
I guess maybe for me, just a quick follow-up on the action item. I didn't get a chance to go through the whole inventory of all the apps, but in the apps.fedoraproject.org view to sort them and what's CPE maintained or what's community maintained. But I figured I guess the announcement or kind of thing that we can look at talking about today is just thinking about how we organize this work and how we can try to build a community, because that's what's part of been our approach about this, is that we mentioned in the earlier meetings, is it's also about mentorship and trying to build a community up around this work. So I guess thinking about the role of the websites team and the infra team, that's kind of the open question, like maybe are there ways that we can better align with that work? And I think the idea that we wanted to maybe pitch was talking about a Fedora objective.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me start with how we got to where we are with the websites. I think that might be helpful. And there's two parts to that. There's the websites team and the CPE group. And so there didn't used to be a CPE group. There used to be a Fedora engineering team at Red Hat. And that team was a lot of people hired from the Fedora community, and kind of it operated in a bubble in Red Hat, and those people didn't talk to anyone else at Red Hat, and they never got raises, and they never they kind of felt like they were getting a paycheck from Red Hat to work on Fedora, which in some ways was cool, because it was like, it really was, this was all a community effort. It just, some people happened to be getting a paycheck, and everybody really worked in a community oriented process. That was good. On the other hand, like people at Red Hat, like management, didn't know what they were doing. I'm serious about not getting raises because it felt like they didn't. No one in their management chain thought that they were adding any value to Red Hat, which is ridiculous because actually they were, but they were so disconnected. And they ended up doing a lot of like 1,000 things, and everybody was really feeling burnt out and like not able to accomplish anything and not supported and so on. So when the CPE team was formed from the merger of the CentOS team and the Fedora team, they tried to really restructure that group to be integrated into Red Hat processes and also be focused on what they're doing. And there's a new management to the group as well. So this has a lot of upsides for the group. People, I think, are finally feeling less burned out, and people are able to get promotions and raises and paid attention to as part of, and feel like they're respected as part of the company. On the other hand, two other things happened. There's a lot of feeling like there's CPE, which does their things, and then the community, which is people who don't work for Red Hat or the rest of us, which is not how we want things to be split up in Fedora, because that's not how Fedora works. Fedora, we're all the community. And then also that team decided that they want to focus just on the things that are part of, since that team reports into the Linux engineering organization in Red Hat, they want to work on things that are just Linux platform engineering. So the build system, stuff that, source control, those things that fit right into that pipeline. And that means a lot of things that group had done, like Moat and FedoCal and even Pagure, are out of scope of what they said. And so like they were like, we're not going to work on badges ever. It's not a thing we care about. And we're not going to work on websites. And we had some, shouting about that internally, but that's basically the way it's structured. And so we decided to stop fighting and find a way to do it better. So that's the inside Red Hat side of things. Meanwhile, for about 10 years before all of this, there used to be a websites team that was multiple people, but then we had one guy, his name was Robert Mar Roby Duck, who really loved to do it, and he was great. And so he did every time we needed an update to the Get Fedora website, anything, he would be right on it. And over time, we kind of just depended on him to do everything, and he liked doing it a lot. And this is kind of it's a balance, because he was very proud of being the website's person, but he didn't really make it easy for other people to join in and be a group. So it ended up being just him. If somebody else came along, he would say, "Oh, that's too hard, I'll do it." And so he didn't really build up. And that was partly, I mean, we're recording here, but it's a human nature thing to be like, I want this to be my thing. And so I'm really appreciative and proud of all the work he did, but it also didn't build up a group around it. And then when he left because he got a better job, his better job made him work harder, and he realized he couldn't do it anymore. So we suddenly had 0 websites team. And then Ricky Elrod, who works in CPE, said, I'll do it. And then his management said, no, you won't. And then we negotiated temporary, you were half in progress with this thing for Get Fedora, can you finish that? So he did, and he's been helping us in his imaginary I'm not supposed to do it spare time with the website so far since then, which is kind of why there is really no websites team. And it's been a bad state, but we've been getting along okay without it. But it's not good for, I think, 3 reasons. First of all, we really need a websites team and people to make websites. Second, this thing that you've pointed out, that when people show up to Fedora, like, I want to work on some coding project, you often tell them, oh, do you want to do packaging? And then they say, no, that's not what I wanted to do. And then we don't have a good place for people to plug in. And then third, here you wonderful people are showing up with your energy to do this. So I want to make sure we're supporting what you're doing and feeding it and making you feel empowered to do what needs to be done here. Because I know coming new into the project and being told, like, yeah, you can do the websites is like, wait, what? I can? Yes, the answer is yes, you can. We need you. Those are my kind of 3 things. And then I got more. I can talk for hours. Let me do my 3rd thing, which is the objectives. So the way that this is structured is the Fedora Council. Our main job on the Fedora Council is to find out what the goals of the community are and support the community in those goals. So we do long-term things in like the vision and strategy and mission things that are kind of the project's long-term goals, and we occasionally do short-term things. But for medium efforts, like 12 months to 18 months, we have a thing called an objective, which is basically a project with an end goal. For example, we've had things, I'm trying to find one that's been a good success. Sometimes things are hard. We have going on right now this revamp the Mindshare initiative, which is basically a it's not, the objective isn't Mindshare. Mindshare's got to live on its own, but the idea is we're going to restructure how ambassadors work and have some concrete steps to get there, and then at the end of 12 months, everything will be in a better state. So I am thinking that we might want to making sure this group succeeds and meets those 3 things of being empowered, being able to welcome new people, and actually having a functional team as an objective for the council. And that way we can give you the support. Being an objective kind of means that the whole rest of the project is notified, this is official, you have the support to do this. And when I go to talk to CPE about needs, they will say, oh, this aligns with an objective. Okay, I understand what's going on here, and can help even though websites are outside of their thing. So yeah, that's my talking. Does all that make sense? Any questions?
I think the history piece was really helpful, just to build context about how we got to where we are now. Maybe an open question I have is maybe just to unpack the objectives piece, which also I put some links in the chat to the objectives page, a link to past objectives, and then some details on the community outreach one on the com blog. But I think maybe what might be helpful here is the things that I think are not well documented objectives is like what goes into that work in that 12 to 18
I know
months.
I've got make a document objectives better on my to-do list from you for a long time, Justin.
Well, maybe this could be a chance just to talk about it and help, like, so like for the folks here, like this is something that we talked about a little bit yesterday in the council chat. But this is something I might be interested in contributing some time to, but just like, I think unpacking what goes into that too, like we could make this a group effort and maybe just from your lived experience, you want to talk about that too?
So honestly, I think doing working backwards from those goals is a good way to come up with what we need to do. So I think the first thing to do is like I gave what I think the 3 goals of the objective would be. This honestly, I like to use a whiteboard and work backward through a logic model on this. And maybe this probably isn't the meeting to do that in, but I think step 1 would be to have a meeting to do that, which is set up what the goals are. I don't know if we've all seen my logic model obsession, but basically it's a way of laying out a plan and from your high-end goals and connecting it to the things you're actually going to be doing. And so you can start with, this is what we're trying to accomplish. You can come up with a mission and vision statement, and then specifically, these are our goals. And I gave 3, but we can work together to come up with some actual goals we agree on. And then we figure out, okay, in order for those goals to happen, what are our actual outputs? What are we going to need to make that thing come true? So if the goal is to have a functioning website team, we need to have the structures of a team in place, the people, and if the goal is to have people have a landing place when they come in with coding things, we need to have that landing place needs to be there, and there needs to be some. So, and then we think, okay, in order to make those things, what are the activities we're going to need to do to make that? What we're going to need to do some writing, we're going to need to do some designing, we're going to need to do these kind of things. And then finally, we go and be like, okay, in order to do those activities, who do we need? Do we need money? Do we need time? Do we need tools? And then figure out what our tools are going in. So that's the planning process that I would suggest using. And then from that, the actual activities to do come out pretty naturally. Yes, my template could be made prettier. I think that's the one that I did in Inkscape. So yes. Actually, I got this. While we're talking about the template, I got feedback from Phoronix of all people that the double line there looks like a deleted cell rather than what it is, which is supposed to be a divider between things we can do and things that we hope happen.
We should just make it a thick line.
Yeah, a thick line would be fine. It's a double line because when I drew it on the whiteboard, I drew a double line. And then when I made it in Inkscape, I made a double line. So I think another thing is the people here are great, and I think 4 people is a good core from this. We'll probably want to attract a few more people to this effort. And Michael, you're invited here because one of the things that I wanted was to make sure that, and so another part of the history part is in giving up on CPE for doing websites things, we asked OSPO, where Marie and Michael work, if they could help instead. And they said yes. And I think this is actually a really good way to connect that to the whole community work, so that rather than that being another team that's just kind of an internal doing stuff inside Red Hat team, but actually the OSPO folks working on things actually work as part of this team. Yes, open source program office. It used to be called open source and stickers, but they renamed it. Marie, I can't hear you. Rude, yes, sorry.
Maybe one thing that would also help, just to hear from Ramya and Nakash too, just some of your motivations too, like some of the things that we talked about in the first meeting, like what you'd like to try to get out of this experience too, because we were originally the Moat development team, and then we became the Web Dev SIG, and now we're the DevOps SIG, and we've gone through that. But maybe do you just want to also share some of your interests as well, and like what kinds of things you'd want to get out of this process, or like what things you'd be interested in learning more about? I think that might be helpful too, just to frame how we can build this as like an objective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So I'll go first. Thank you, Matthew, for all the overview. It gives so much clarity. So when I first joined Fedora, I was really looking into something. I was not sure back then, but then quickly I realized that I wanted to get into web development or something like that. And mostly I could see was packaging, and that's not what I wanted to do. And then we started working on more, and then we realized that we need more people, and then there are also a lot of people out there who are willing to work on websites or development, back end, front end, whatever it may be, but there was not a group where we can share our experiences and mentorship. I couldn't find like a landing page to find where I can find other projects, where I can find like-minded people, or from where I can get the guidance. I am new to all this, so I was looking for a lot of guidance and a mentorship. So I thought this initiative would actually give a lot of scope to newcomers like me to provide good guidance and mentorship, and then get an idea about how the path will be and how it can go along. So I thought it will be really great to have a landing page and all that. And also, like, we are also working on like getting together all the projects, so there will be more scope to work on rather than just one project where there will be a lot of like hurdles. It takes time. So if there are multiple projects, like, we can keep on contributing, and then by then, like, I can learn a lot of new things from definitely experienced people here. So that's what I'm looking for. I hope to get back from this while I contribute as well. So that's my idea for now.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and we do have people who know a lot who can help. We'll have to make sure we get them well involved as well. I know Neil is interested, Neil Gampa, and he's has a lot of experience with getting things to happen from outside of Red Hat. I would like to get somebody from the CPE team to come to meetings and be part of the team, even if they've got a thing called the sustaining team. I think that might be the best thing, and I think their role there would not necessarily be to do work, but to make sure that resources are available and the team has what, like, if you need a server to run something on, they're connected into making sure you can get those resources. And then Michael, Jason, other OSPO people, and
so I wanted to ask a question to the folks who are here of interest, the group. So do we want to have a SIG? Is the SIG, were we set on doing the SIG, or is this going to be website team? Like, I feel like we're trying to kind of move that way, but I want to make sure that people are all on board with that. Or am I misunderstanding?
Wait, that's a good question, but I also kind of want to hear from Akash about where he's coming from in all of this and background.
Oh, I'm sorry, my brain jumped.
Yeah, I know. Mine does that all the time too. So I'm trying to not jump.
No problems, Matthew, Marie, and that's a cute cat right there. Totally loved it. Yeah, so I'm one of the avid ticket makers in Join SIG. So whosoever joins, I always try to be the one who says hello, and I always try to point them towards stuff that they can do. I ask them that if there's something that they liked in the community, right? Or something that they do in their daily lives, or something that they are a part of that they could do in the community as well. Because if you do something that you like, then the chances are you do that in a better way. But the thing is, I always had this checkpoint. I always used to tell them that these are the links in the join ticket, in the welcome to Fedora ticket that you need to explore. But beyond that, I was mostly at loss to explain them where to go to, and that was something which I also faced. But in due course of time, as I spent time with the community, because I think that's something that which is more important, because the more time you spend with folks, you get to know more about the community. So the more time I spent here, I got to know that yeah, these are the projects that I can be a part of. These are the projects that I can be of assistance. Unfortunately, there are folks out there who cannot dedicate that much of time in exploring. So a SIG, or maybe just because web development is such a general field that mostly people who are developers in computer science are a part of it. um, if we serve them on a plate, let's just say that it becomes visible to them, right? So it might give them a starting point, apart from easy fix tickets, yeah, but this can be a starting point for them. They'll know exactly what they want to do. And like Matthew said, that packaging might not be everyone's piece of cake, right? So yeah, that is something that we can do.
Cool. You also had a question in the chat, which was, can a SIG be supported as part of a CPE initiative? The answer is kind of maybe, but like things like the proposal to put I've forgotten the name of it, the ASCII Doctor editor into production as an initiative. CPE doesn't know what to do with things like that. It is not. It is not the kind of like thing it's easy for them to digest, because it doesn't fit right into their build the operating system mission goals and things like that. So I think in general for those kind of things, the answer is probably no, unless we have something that does overlap with their mission goals. On the other hand, if there are things like provide web server resources to us, provide OpenShift to us, those kind of things, I think that is within their scope. And so that's why I think we need to have some interface, but we're not going to be able to assign initiatives to them for this very easily. Does that make sense? And they are a very overloaded team already, so it's not like they're not doing anything. And I would like to get to the point where we can also have more community people involved in the things they're doing, and hopefully we can actually provide a model for a way that those things can happen by showing that it can happen in other areas, and that if they would maybe make it more possible, they could do less work themselves. But that's, we got to show rather than tell.
Yeah, one of Michael's superior informed that there were applications and infrastructure that CP team is very, very busy in maintaining. There are bugs to fix, and at that point of time, introducing a new project in CP does not seem very practical, or something that is feasible to do at that point of time. So yeah, that's certainly something that the CP team cannot be a part of. And yeah, we need to get tasks that we can assign to people, maybe that can be something to show.
So on
Can I?
Marie's thing, right? Go ahead.
Well, also I just wanted to so I can summarize for myself or for everyone. Ramya, it seems like you are interested in working on actual development of websites, and Akash, you are looking a little bit more for like the organizational side. Okay. I just wanted, and then yes, I would love to jump to the next question that I mentioned about the SIG versus the websites team and how you guys are feeling about it.
I have thoughts. Naming things is important to me, and so there was some discussion about what's a SIG, what's a team, and whatever, and some of that's some historical things. The Fedora Council actually made a decision on this a couple of years ago that hasn't quite sucking in, and that decision was let's stop being so formal about what names are, and basically everything can just be a team. So that's actually the official word here. If you want to be a working group or a team or a SIG, it doesn't really matter that much. Although it is generally the case that a SIG is very informal, doesn't necessarily have a structure, it's just a list of people who share an interest. Whereas a team will have a more formal structure, will have membership, will have a an updated page, maybe have job roles, and have regular meetings. Where a SIG might have those things, but it might not. So a team is calling yourself a team implies more structure, and I think we actually should have that. So I think team is a good choice. I also think because websites is a team that's existed, just saying websites team is good. If we want to make it websites and apps to make it clear that it's more broad, that would be fine as well. I don't like DevOps team because DevOps is an approach rather than a thing you do, right? It's like it's almost I don't know. I'm trying to find an analogy. It's not fitting, but a DevOps team could be working on anything, and it doesn't have any kind of focus. What you're doing the DevOps for. So yeah, website.next. Yes, sure. That's probably taken. Yeah. So does that make sense? And does just being like websites team or websites and apps team make sense to people?
The things that you said about being a team, like having structure and being obligatory, not exactly obligatory, but having meetings every now and then just to keep things rolling and having specified roles. That is something that we are kind of looking for, but we also want to provide a role which is not very how do I say this? You're not bound to that role. Maybe you're learning something, maybe you're not contributing, but that's entirely fine. But that is a kind of mentorship that we are providing to people, but they are still a part of the team without contributing anything. So that's why I was kind of inclined towards SIG, but the facts about team that you said makes totally sense to me, and +1 for team from my side.
One thing that could also be done is the infrastructure team, although this has apparently not been working so smoothly recently, but for a long time had a pretty successful thing with infrastructure apprentices. So you could have, here's the team, and then we also have a group of apprentices or some other term around it that's someone who's interested, but they're not, not making the commitment to be a formal team member, but can also be part of it and still get, a group membership and a badge and those kind of things that make you feel included.
And how about you, Ramya?
Yeah, I think team is more official. So it sounds really good. Like Akash said, there might be some people who probably can't do the commitment. So yeah, I think they can. Anyway, +1 for the team.
Marie, did that
So maybe then
cover everything you were?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think it's going to come down, like now we have an agreement, it's going to come down to just organizational details about, which repo we're using, which docs page we're using. We need to, kind of gather those resources, update them appropriately. I mean, that's the objective, right? So, I just see a cascade of work, but I think that if everyone's on board for the name, then we have a great place to start.
So I guess I have two questions for the group. One being for this next meeting, knowing that we're also getting to like the last 15-ish minutes here. For our next meeting, we could just make that the agenda for that next meeting a scoping meeting, just try to go through what we would need to put together and start to plan for an objective, like what do we want to do across 12, 18 months. If that's something that sounds interesting, we could make that the agenda for the next meeting. And then the second part that I just want to open, So I guess like what my interest was in this, I wasn't necessarily interested in leading the objective, but I'm happy to play a role as a mentor, a more hands-on like role as a mentor to help guide with this work. But I know this is actually kind of an aside that I wanted to bring up yesterday, but having like objective leads and objective mentors as a defined role, but that's an aside.
Yeah,
but
we
that
actually
was
did
kind of the
decide
interest.
we did decide to do that, Justin. So that's a thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Were
Is
you
it?
not there? Yes, we talked about that in Prague, right? That when we have, I think we called it an objective buddy or something like that.
Okay.
But a council buddy. But yeah, that's exactly the idea. That when we start an objective, we should have somebody who is on the council who is the mentor for that group. And so for the Mindshare thing, Marie is serving as that in that role. And yeah, Justin, that's when I said I'd like you to be this, it was that role, not necessarily the lead for it. And I would
Justin
love.
won't be on the council though.
That's true.
I think.
So I
mean,
guess this is the question is, I was wondering if this is something that Ramya and Akash might be interested in helping lead as well with some guidance.
I have something
Yeah,
to
maybe
add to
Marie
the
first.
conversation. To add to the conversation, which is Ben is spinning up a program management team. And if we had some people interested in that, we could assign one of those people to help with the objective, or like get a person from there to assist with this objective, because that's one of the reasons that we're coming up with the program management team, or project management, program project, whatever. So I think that could be a nice resource for websites and this objective. I don't know how formal, or I think it's still in the proposal stage though. But I think it's going to take a while to scope and make a plan. You know, you have what we're going to do the logic model and come up with all kinds of stuff. So hopefully by the time we're ready to jump in, we would have a project manager to. This person would be probably in training, but like we have, Ben's going to be the mentor and the guider for that part. So all the mentorship.
All right. Justin, you can still help mentor. We'll find somebody who is on the council as a mentor for it as well. Alexandra also offered.
And is there a requirement that the mentor has to be on council anyways?
No, certainly not.
Can keep it as the objective leads.
Yeah. And so on being an objective lead, so we have kind of a complicated structure for the council because it's a big project and we wanted to represent a lot of interests. So there are 6 core council members who have full voting on everything. And that is 2 elected people, Marie and I as hired by Red Hat, and then a Mindshare representative and an engineering representative. And those 6... Ben is not a core person, actually. So Ben technically only, because we didn't want to, we wanted, those were kind of the 3 interests we wanted to represent, and each one of those has a consensus vote. Like if anybody disagrees on something, like that thing doesn't move forward until we can convince that person to change their mind. There are 2 other roles that are the program manager, that's Ben, and then the diversity and inclusion advisor, which also have veto votes, but technically only when it is in their area. So the diversity and inclusion person has a vote. They can vote on everything, but if they say negative to something and it's not really a diversity issue, then their vote doesn't. We can say, okay, it's recorded, but we're going to still go ahead with this. If that person that's to keep it from being like a Red Hat paid person who is then going to like vote on something like an engineering decision. I don't that's not ever been a real problem. And the same thing is with Ben as a program manager. His votes are supposed to be about program management things, but both of those things can also be pretty widely defined, so we don't include that. So this is important because the objective leads are also council members, and we really have tried to make that so that when you're an objective lead, like you come to all of our council meetings and you talk about all of the different things we discuss, not just your objective, because it helps you connect into the project, it helps you connect into what's going on at Red Hat, and it helps us as the council get important feedback from people who are working on things. But again, if it comes down to a specific thing, that's a disagreement, the vote that you have is really only when things that affect your objective. So if you're the objective lead for websites things, and there's an important vote about something that doesn't affect the websites, and I'm not good at coming up with examples right now. We might record your vote, but not necessarily block on it if it comes to that. That doesn't usually happen. And in actual practice, what we really try to do is include everybody in discussion and get everybody's perspective on everything, and make sure that there's consensus among even the people in the objectives. And I think that this gives us a leadership structure in Fedora, which I think is kind of unique, but it consists a lot of people who are actually doing real work in the project, are really helping to make the decisions, rather than an elected body that doesn't do anything but weigh in with opinions, or hired people that are just doing it for their job. So I like it a lot, but it is also an additional commitment from somebody from the team. It doesn't have to be everybody, but we'd like one person from the team, if we make it an objective, to be coming to council meetings every week, or at least every other week, and weighing in and discussing things, and hopefully in November coming to our in-person meetings somewhere in the world, that kind of thing. Somewhere nice. We try to have it somewhere nice.
I miss Seville sometimes.
Oh, that was so good.
Okay, I just want to, I don't know how long the meeting goes. Is it an hour?
We've got like 10, 20 minutes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we talk a little bit about what OSPO, like Matthew, what do you see OSPO's role being in this? I just want to make sure that we're incorporating that into this conversation, because Michael's here.
Michael, what do you think?
You want the honest answer, or you want the diplomatic one?
I would like them both. You pick the order.
Okay. I think that ideally I would be there as a backup plan if CP say no, or if you need to say, if you do not want to do it, we have someone else. This kind of stuff, because I would provide the same stuff as them. Basically, some hosting, maybe some help for people, because I know how to develop and these kind of things, but I do not have the resource. And when I say because we are two people in the team being system administrator, we don't have the resource to do that much work, so we are overloaded like CP. But the more diplomatic answer is it's better to have two people working part-time, especially if there is later some unplanned problem, like needing to move a data center, needing to release a completely new distribution between 8 and 10, this kind of stuff. So it's better to have two separate teams for resiliency. So I will be there, because I will not be in vacation at the same time that CP is moving data center, these kind of things.
Yeah. So one of the things I see is we have a theory of community in Fedora called the flywheel theory. A flywheel is a part of a machine that maintains momentum. It keeps spinning, and even when the engine stops, it keeps going, right? And so one of the things we've learned is that every team needs to have a flywheel, and it often helps if that is a paid position, because that way that person is not going to get another job. If they do get another job, somebody else will get put into this spot, rather than what happened with RobyDuck, where he went off and was doing something else and everything ground to the halt. And we've seen that happen with the docs team, with the server SIG. Like, a lot of different groups have this problem where there was somebody excited about it and then they leave and it falls apart. So I think part of the OSPO role here is to be that person of making sure things move forward, in the event that energy slows down, and hopefully, like the flywheel, getting out of the way when the energy is going, and not necessarily being the lead of everything, or push or driving things, but just being there and making sure momentum continues to happen. And yeah, Justin, I do think we should ask for somebody from the sustaining team in CPE to be part of it. And again, their job wouldn't be to do work. It would be to make sure that the team has access to the resources CPE provides. And I'll talk to them about that. That I'm making a to-do item for myself.
I know Akash and Marie had their hands up earlier. Wasn't sure if there was something else either of you wanted to add.
I was going to ask about OSPO. So my understanding is that, Matthew, you would like someone from CP and someone from OSPO as team members. People who are going to kind of regularly show up, give support if it's needed, that kind of thing.
And, if you need to be like, I need an AWS instance, how do I get it? That CP person is your contact for making sure that happens.
And so because we're also hosting some apps and stuff with OSPO, it makes sense to have a rep from them as well.
Yeah, although I also am hoping for more from OSPO in terms of that flywheel. I'm not counting on CPE for the flywheel.
Did Akash have a question as well?
I added an action item that unfortunately no, Marie. The decision about the name, I'm not sure if it was made. Was it made? Because I think we were going ahead with DevOps team, but Matthew told that DevOps, right? So it is something to be decided yet, right?
So no, we decided you guys would be websites team because that's a team that already exists. It's going to reduce confusion. Am I wrong? Did I misunderstand that?
Do you not like websites team?
Like it exists already. That's what we're going. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Websites is more, according to me, are blogs, static websites and stuff. But we would be maintaining application services, and so it kind of downplays on what we do, maybe. So that's what I think.
Yeah. What about changing it to websites and apps, which is a little bit longer, but gives some more things? Websites and apps team.
Yeah, Justin
I like
also
that better.
wanted
Just
to.
go ahead, Ramya. Oh.
Why don't we take Michael's
suggestion?
Website next sounds cool.
I was going to go with website and app team just because I think it's a nice compromise between it's the old team as well, but also like we're doing this refresh. We're bringing it, build some awareness that it's not just the same, situation as it was 8 years ago. And we're trying something different. So I like website and apps just because we get that familiarity and it's a little different.
Yeah, and we can use the existing tracker in Pegger repo and then just put apps in the name, but keep the URL and all of the tickets there.
Yes.
Let's do that.
I have a quick question though. So if it is going to be a team which is going to be more official, are we going to wait until there are more people into the team? Like, how does it work? If it's just me and him, it will be fine, right? I'm just new to all this. I'm nervous.
Yeah, I know. We're asking you to take on a lot more scope here, so don't worry about that. I think like going from doing Moat to saying we're doing all the apps, you can still work on Moat and say all these other apps are also in scope. We're just don't have time for them right now. And I think that can be, we're starting with a small team and you put out a call for some volunteers and I think other people will show up as well. When we did this for the server working group reboot, the problem actually was that suddenly 20 people showed up and it was a little bit hard to organize all of the people, which is a good problem to have, but you want to make sure that it's done in a way that's deliberate. I think we should try and invite more people to meeting about the plan and where we want to go, and I think it'll kind of see who wants to. The people who are interested in being involved in that and stick through that will be people who stay with the team. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know Justin will be there, but I mean, like, if down the lane when things get busy for people, and then that's what I was thinking. So
yeah. yeah, I guess don't worry about getting started. It's okay. You can get started just with what you are. It doesn't need to be a gigantic team. And also, we'll be here to support you down the road as well. That's part of why we're here and why what we're talking about making an objective around it to help give you the support you need and making it successful.
Okay, thank you so much.
Right, there already are 2 different websites.
Part of the requirement scoping.
Right.
Right.
So then I think probably for this next meeting, we can try to put together an agenda around like partly the inventory of the apps, I guess, is one piece, but looking more broadly, like what kinds of things do we want to accomplish in the next 12 to 18 months with this? Like where do we want to be at the end of that? And then maybe working backwards. And we could use the logic model as a way to guide that conversation too. But I think that might be the good next step for our next meeting. But not sure if we want to maybe leave some time to think on the objective piece. I don't want to put anyone on the spot to have to commit to 12 to 18 months in a 1 hour call.
But I have a list. So I have a list of apps that I had when I was doing the CPE to OSPO transition, which might be useful for you guys.
Yes, please.
I think also, I think that the planning exercise is worth doing, even if the decision is we're not going to make this objective after all, because I think some good, useful things will come out of that for the team, even if we decide we don't want to do an objective. Even if you decide you don't want to do an objective, really, because it's a lot your decision. Because again, it's the people doing the work. I'm here to help, but I'm not going to do the work.
I shared a document with you, Justin, and it just needs, you can extract the list from there. There's other things in there, not just easily grabbable. That's a good question. I'm not sure which one.
So from what I remember, the one in Fedora web/website is the new system. And in an ideal world, everything from the old system should be converted and migrated to the new one. But in case you didn't notice, we are not in an ideal world. So right now it's right of the middle. But I guess that using at least the Fedora web namespace would provide clarity. And if later you want to create a new tracker there, people will see it's part of Fedora web, but it will be starting fresh. And maybe one of the first steps is to decide if we want to drop some website or if we want to move them one by one to the new system.
Right, that is much more specific and actual work than I want to care about. But actual work is actually important as well.
Something that we can build into as we start to get into the details of what we want to accomplish too, part of the scope.
There are a lot of links which redirect to different versions of websites, documentations for them.
That would definitely be one thing that, since we've also, Akash, you've worked with a lot of the quick docs, and Ramya, you've worked with a lot of the DNI docs. We could also have a chance to take the things that we've learned working with those projects and think, how do we restructure this? How do we make this wiki mess? Or how do we consolidate down? Like, I think that would actually be something that would be definitely doable and would help us also document our work and bring new people in.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
In fact, it should be one of the first things that we should do, because in order to give a starting point, we would not want to confuse them in the first place, because there's a lot of websites to go through, websites.
Okay.
So maybe since we're in the last few minutes, I might just ask Marie and Matthew, do you have bandwidth to maybe help for this next meeting to be there just to help us with scoping, and maybe Misk, if you want to be there, you can. Or go ahead.
I'm actually comfortable facilitating that meeting if you like. If someone else would like to do it, that would be fine. But I can facilitate going through the logic model planning thing and showing what that's all about. Probably
I think that'd be helpful just to kickstart us.
Yeah. Probably an hour is a little bit short for it. If we could do a longer than an hour, that would be helpful. I don't have attention span as a human being for much longer than an hour, though. So, like, planning it for an hour and a half or something would probably be a good idea. And I think that the homework for that meeting is to come prepared with what you would see as like a 12-month a vision for how things should be in 12 months. Like what should be accomplished after this objective is done. What would it look like? What would that have created? I can. Is this a good time slot for everybody? I've told Red Hat people to never schedule meetings on Fridays for me, so this is generally a good day for me to do community meeting things. Although my real goal was to have no meetings on Friday, at least no Red Hat meetings is a good start. So this is a good time for me. Should I can put together an announcement and send it to like the websites list? Is there somewhere else I should send it?
Probably in the matrix room. There's a few folks who are interested in helping out that we have there, but I don't think we've really established a definite place yet.
All right. And so actually that brings me to another thing. Do you want a category on the discussion.fedoraproject.org as a discussion place, or are our mailing lists better? I am very heavily, just to show my biases, on the side of I want all the mailing lists to die and let's move to something modern, but I know that not everybody is.
Discussions would be great, Matthew.
Okay, I will go ahead and create that space there, and that way we can have a place to organize.
And that means Matthew gets to figure out the naming challenge.
Right. I'm giving myself lots of homework. Normally, I give Ben Cotton homework. I don't know what's today.
Well, I think then if we want, do we want to extend the invite for next week for the March 19th? I'm flexible to, like, if we want to add 30 minutes on or go to the end of the hour for that one, I can do that. Not sure about other folks here or if there's flexibility.
I'm fine with that too. How about everybody else?
I can be there as long as there's no other emergency.
It's late night for me, so I can stay for an hour, but then again, I think extending for another half an hour might not be possible to me. So
okay, is it better if we start a half hour earlier?
I can do that.
Okay.
I can do that. Yeah.
That makes me wake up at the horrible time of 9 a.m. So I could probably suffer.
This is also the week after daylight savings, just to make things more confusing.
Right.
No. All
right. Does daylight saving change? Where does that change for everybody? I guess we better call it UTC, huh? Is daylight savings changing?
Yeah, maybe do you want to mention where we all are?
It's not changing in India, it's changing in Europe 2 weeks after, unless we cancel last year because there was some discussion around Europe. I personally trust glibc to tell me what time is it, but it's not really.
Okay, so half hour earlier UTC, 1400 UTC, whatever time that ends up being. Okay.
Perfect. And we're all on the calendar invite, right? That's how we got here. with Ramia's invite?
Yeah, I am going to add Marie and Matthew and Michael as well to the list.
Yeah.
And then I will send it out. I
Perfect.
always forget. So what is the time going to change after the daylight? Is it? Should I wake up
Spring
earlier than
forward,
this?
fall back.
It's not helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be an hour earlier than now, like.
Yeah.
So
Suddenly, it is an hour later than it used to be. Like right now, it is 10:30 my time. It is suddenly going to be 11:30 at the same time. Like you lose an hour for no good reason. Thank you, stupid world system.
Okay. I was like, maybe I should wake up at 6 for a meeting at 7. My God. And I think I'll survive. It's going to be good.
Where are you based?
Chicago.
Chicago. My brother is in Evanston. So.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'm in Arlington Heights to be precise. So.
All right. I don't know all the neighborhoods, but yeah, I know Evanston pretty well.
So I will send out the invite to everyone, and we will be having recording next week as well, just so that we can go back and check it. Anything else that we want to add up? Oh, Justin, you're on mute.
Oops. Yeah, so wait for this. I'll upload the recording to YouTube as an unlisted video, and we can just keep it as for us, just to reflect back.
Yes.
But we won't distribute it too widely, I think, just until we get more focus. And
is that a Google Calendar invite? Is that?
It is. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I will send out the general announcement of the meeting thing, and we can use this. It says DevOps, so that'll confuse people. We'll make a different Jitsi URL for it.
Okay. All right. So is it going to be websites and apps, Jitsi now?
Sure.
I'll do that too.
the roulette wheel of what every week, what chat room will we have next?
Yeah. The earliest chat room was called Mode Developers.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It's okay. We make things up as we go along. That's another Fedora principle.
Yes. No worries at all. Yeah.
Cool. We're a little bit over time. Is there any last minute things we want to talk about before we wrap up? Okay. Well,
Thank
cool.
you, everybody.
I'll work on getting the.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate your energy around this. It's awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Justin was saying something.
Yeah, I'll just get the recording out sometime in the next couple of days. So I'll just share it with you probably over email. Keep an eye out.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.